Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast. You guys might be wondering, Ryan, where have you been? It's been a few weeks. Yes, I know. And I have good reason for that. If you don't know, I only posted about this on TikTok because I felt like I had to say something somewhere. My grandmother passed away a little bit over a week ago now. Let's address this. I'm back in Japan now. I got back 2 days ago. Everything happened so quickly. I went home. Oh my God, my cat is like looking down. I wish I could show you, but my cat is looking down at me from the ladder. I went home from Europe, as a lot of you guys might know, just to visit, like for, wintertime, the holidays, whatever. And I was only supposed to go back for like a week and come back to Japan on December 15th. So I go home, everything was fine, and I feel like I should provide some like context about the relationship my grandmother and I had, because this wasn't just like a grandmother that like I never really spoke to or anything like that. My grandmother is basically like a mom to me. I'm getting used to like saying past tense now, but she was a mom to me, like my second mom. And she raised me. I've never like talked about this before, but when I was in like, I think it was kindergarten through second grade, my mom was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And I was very young, and so was my sister. And we had like nowhere to go essentially because my mom was sick. She couldn't take care of us while she was sick. My parents had been separated before this had happened, so like there was nowhere for us to really go. So my grandmother, who is actually not my mom's mom, she's my dad's mom, but I'm way closer to my dad's mom than my mom's mom. I don't know if this is going to get confusing, but bear with me. So my mom got sick, and my grandmother kind of took the role of like parent, legal guardian, if you will, during that time. And me being 8, 9, 10 years old, those are like very, very formative years. And so she was a parent to me, and our household was very like, I learned a lot of lessons living in a household with my grandmother. She's very like clean, likes to make her bed every day. She's had a lot of kids. She had 5 kids of her own and then raised me and my sister as well. So she has a lot of experience being a parent, and she raised me and my sister very well. And so I had a very special bond with my grandmother, and we like lived with her on and off. I can't remember exact details, but on and off over years of time. And so yeah, we were naturally just like really close with our grandmother. And I'm trying to like speak about this without like being emotional. It's definitely a topic that's kind of like hard to speak about right now, but I'm going to try to push through it. After living with my grandmother, my mom, which is important to know, she recovered from being terminally ill, which was like a miracle in itself, but she did recover. And then when my mom like was able to get back on her feet, we lived with my mom again. But of course, I maintain a relationship with my grandmother as well. So years go on, I go through high school, whatever, and then I go to college. Well, my grandmother wanted to move to South Carolina, where my aunt lived, because she wanted to live out the rest of her years like at the beach, like whatever. She loved it there, so she wanted to move there. So she did. She got a house in South Carolina. And whenever I came home to my mom in Virginia. So I didn't really get much opportunity to see her. And this was like 2019. So I didn't really get much opportunity to see her anymore. I did see her when COVID started. I went to go see her. So that was 2020. And that was the last time that I saw her in person. And then, I moved to Japan, and then coming home, I was going to Virginia. So everything got complicated. It's like a 6-hour drive to South Carolina, whatever. Anyway, flash forward to this year. Now I'm going back to Virginia, to see my family and just spend time there for about a week. And after a few days of spending time there, I was with two of my friends, and I got a call from my sister saying that my grandmother had passed away, which I immediately just like went into shock because I didn't understand how, because she was perfectly fine. I spoke to her 2 or 3 weeks on the phone when I was in Paris, and she was perfectly fine. We had like an hour and a half conversation, just about the most random stuff. And the only health scare that she's ever had in my life was 2 years ago. She had a stroke, and one of her eyes, she went like blind in her eye. But after that, she was completely fine, like literally perfectly fine. And then just a random day while I was in the States, I didn't get to go and see her at this point, and I also wasn't planning on going to South Carolina. We spoke about it on the phone a few weeks ago, and we were like, oh yeah, like let's try to meet up like when I'm in the States. But it ended up just being like really complicated. There wasn't really a time frame that was good in the week that I was in the States for me to go all the way to South Carolina. But I didn't even get like the opportunity to really like tell her that or talk to her about it. But apparently she spoke to my mom, and my mom told her that like they knew, like my grandmother knew and understood that like I didn't have time to go there. But I never got to talk to her about it. And she just randomly one day passed away in her sleep, and we don't know why. I guess when people like pass away like that, you don't ever really figure out why. I guess that's what I was told. And I got a call one day when I was driving with my friends, and it was my sister saying that like my grandmother had passed away, and I was just like freaking out, and I was like, I don't understand like how, like I just spoke to her, like she was literally perfectly fine. And so all of my sisters like rushed to my mom's house, and we all just like sat there, and all of us have a relationship with my grandmother, including my mom, when it's not even her mom. Like my mom has a very close relationship, or it's not even her mom. My mom has always had a close relationship with her for decades. And I was just in complete shock. I could not process the fact that my grandmother had just died. It didn't compute to me. And immediately after, it was just so strange to do anything that involved enjoyment, because it's just like everything you do, you're just reminded, oh, but my family member just died. Like I'm suffering an enormous loss. And I thought, this is why I didn't expect like grief to be what it has been for me for the past like 2 weeks. And it's because I always assumed like everyone knows like the day their grandparents are going to die, or their parents are going to die. Everyone knows that day will come. You don't know when, and you can't prepare for it. But I knew, at least I thought, that if the day that happened, I would be completely distraught. And there were times when I would literally cry just thinking about the thought of my grandmother like leaving this earth. And because I speak to her like so frequently, and she's one of the only people in my family that I have like the deepest conversations with and can really go to about like how I'm feeling and really talk about just anything with her. And she's so supportive of everything. And she's always just willing to talk to me. And she's the one person in my life that I've always had that I can call whenever I need someone. And so I always thought like, oh my God, if she's gone, then like I'm going to be a complete wreck. I'm not going to be able to eat. I'm not going to be able to get out of bed. I'm not going to be able to dress myself. I'm not going to be able to do literally anything. And strangely enough, that just wasn't the case. Like the day after I found out, I like went to Dunkin' Donuts, and I was like, it felt weird because I was like, how could I just like go get coffee after I'm suffering like equivalent to like losing a parent? Like I did not know like what to do. But it's like obviously you still have to eat, and I kept telling myself like, okay, she wouldn't want me to be sad. She wouldn't want me to be sad. Like I just need to go about life like as normal as possible, because I know that's what she would have wanted for me. Um and it was just so strange, and it's still strange. Like every day I catch myself like having the slightest bit of enjoyment, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like what are we doing here? Like I'm supposed to be suffering like this like enormous loss. But I think a lot of comfort that I've been provided with was how close of a relationship I had. Like you'd think if the closer you are, the harder the loss is. But for me, I think the closer I was to her, the easier the loss is, because I felt like I had spoken to her plenty of times about like, I remember even just being a kid, and like she clarified to me that she wasn't afraid to die. She had like a very fulfilled life. She had so many kids. She loved everyone in our family. Like she just had such a fulfilling life. And that brought me so much comfort. And with like her health scare 2 years ago, um, I think she knew that any day something could happen. Like just one day you can literally just not wake up. And I think she knew that that was possible. Um, and she had a fulfilled life. I don't think she was afraid to die. I don't think she was afraid to die at all. And I think that has brought me a lot of comfort. Oh, also something that is so crazy. Her husband, I refer to her as her husband because he passed away so many years before I was born. So I've never really called him my grandfather, but her husband, who she was married to from like the age of, I think they started dating when she was like 18. He passed away in the 80s, like 1984, on the exact same day that my grandmother passed away, which I thought was literally insane. And my grandmother never remarried after decades. She never remarried. And she was just so in love with my grandfather. I never knew him, and I never got to see their like relationship, but this woman was committed to this man. And she's had photos of him like up around the house up until the day that she died. Like they were so in love, and I want someone to love me that bad. Like so bad. But it brought me a lot of comfort knowing that they passed away like on the same day. I was like, I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I'd like to believe that it means something. And it made me really happy. I've never been someone to be religious or anything like that. I mean, I've always just been like open to the thought of everything, but I hope somewhere that she's like with him. And she has my uncle also passed away a few years ago, her son, and I just hope that like they're all together and she's like with her parents again. I don't know. I mean, I think like sometimes people just like cling on to thoughts like that to cope, but that's what I hope. That's what I hope is possible, and is out there. Yeah, and then it was like as soon as I found out that she passed away, funerals and like services like that happen so quickly. I think 3 days later, her funeral was held, and it was held in Virginia, and she passed away in South Carolina. And so we had to drive the day of like 2.5 hours to her funeral. And that was really hard, like probably the hardest day of my life. And I think there was a lot of family there that I haven't seen in years, like so many years. And I felt like there was a big spotlight on me because everyone in the family knew that my grandmother and I were close, and knew that everyone says that like I was my grandmother's favorite. And there were people who literally said that to me at the funeral. And I felt like there was like this spotlight on me. And so I felt like a lot of like pressure kind of, but I just wanted to be like as respectful as possible and do as good as I can at this funeral. And I only found out like a day before that the funeral was going to be open casket, and I was always terrified of an open casket funeral. Like, I did not want to see her like that in front of me. Um, but I was surprised by like my reaction when I saw her. I definitely like I broke down. I broke down like in tears, and it was really really hard to see that. But it was also a little bit of like closure at the same time, because like we didn't get to see each other when I came home to the States. And I never got to talk to her about it, but her being there like at the funeral was kind of like a form of, I mean, she didn't get to see me, but like I got to see her, and we were just in the same room, so it was like something. It was something. So that brought me like a lot of closure, and I got to speak at her funeral as well. I was only like one of like four people that spoke. I honestly didn't understand why like more people didn't speak, but I wrote like a letter and prepared it, and I spoke at the funeral, which was like really really hard to say all of those emotions in front of a lot of people, but I just wanted to, out of respect for her. And yeah, saying bye to her at like the burial site was really difficult. But after that day, that was the hardest of it. That was the hardest of it. Like even the days before like weren't as hard as the day of the funeral, obviously. Like finding out wasn't even as hard as the funeral, but the days after, I've kind of just tried to keep like a good head on my shoulders, and I just constantly remind myself that like I'm trying to do like exactly what she would want me to do. Like she wouldn't want me to be like immobilized, and she wouldn't want me to be depressed. She always wants, and she of course she wants me to eat as good as I can. She always commented on how like skinny I was and how she wants me to like eat more. But reminding myself that allows me to like continue to be as happy as I can and just like continue a normal life. So grief is not what I expected at all. Like I said, I thought I was going to be depressed and not able to eat or get out of bed for like months, but that's not the case, which is strange in a lot of ways. And everybody handles grief differently. So I definitely don't want to get on here and be like, this is going to be your experience. This is what everyone's experience with grief is going to be. Because you could be like extremely depressed and not be able to eat and whatnot. But for some reason, that's just not how I've been affected. And one thing that was really, really great to come out of this and made me so happy, because I know like my grandmother would have been like really happy to see this. The silver lining of her passing away was like all of my sisters who have butted heads for years, and myself, and my mom, my whole family has like butted heads for years, and it's like not easy for everyone to get into the same room. But we all made time and like spent a lot of time together, especially like me and my closest sister were able to spend a lot of time together while I was home. And it felt very healing, because I haven't spent time with my family like that in so many years, like so many years. And that was the biggest gift that I could have like received out of everything that happened. And I know that my grandmother would be like so happy to see that. Cause her main priority, like all the time, was always just like family, and she wanted everyone to get along, and she wanted me to like talk to my sisters and my mom like as much as possible, and see them as much as possible. So I think just navigating life the way that she would have wanted to see it for me is helping me through the loss of her in a lot of ways, because I know she would be happy to see me being happy, no matter what it is in any form. My grandmother and I just had like such a, and I said this at her funeral, and I said this on, I think, in the TikTok that I made, but she was like literally one of my best friends. She wasn't just like my grandmother. Like I said earlier, I spoke to her about essentially everything, and she was the only person I spoke to in so much depth about my life, and I could always go to her about advice, and we would just talk about like the most mundane things as well. And so losing her is the biggest loss of my life. But yeah, she was quite literally my best friend, which I know is weird to say for like your grandmother, but we just had like a unique relationship, and I'm proud of that because she was just such an amazing woman. And she accomplished so much, and she raised me so well, and she looked after everyone so well, and she loved everyone very much. And I don't think a lot of things that I can say about her, I can't say about anyone else. And I'm very proud of her. Ugh, I don't want to cry. I knew I was going to, though. And what's crazy about all of this is the fact that I was home when this happened. Like, I don't know how that happened, but it was like the middle of my trip when I was in the States, and if there was any time for this to happen, it'd be like when I was home. It would have been horrible if it was like the day I was going back to Japan, or if I was like, if I had just gotten back home to Japan and then I just had to go back to the US, and that would have made things so much worse. But I was like already there. So the timing was just like insane. And also we have boxes full of disposable like camera photos from over the years, and there's a lot of photos of my grandmother and I when I lived with her, and there's just a lot of photos of my grandmother in general. So I got to like look through all of those and look through all the photo albums, and I brought 2 photos home to Japan with me, and like I bought a frame and I framed it. So I'm glad that I have those photos. Also, I don't even know what's happening with like all of my grandmother's like assets. She has like a house. I know her car. Oh my God. So, I was gonna buy my mom a car when I was home because she needs a new car. And the day that I was gonna buy my mom a car, my grandmother had left my dad, her son, mind you. My grandmother had left my dad her car. And my grandmother has like a pretty nice car. It's like a Cadillac. Had. And my dad decided to give the car to my mom because I guess like one of my sisters had told him that like she needed a new car. And my dad gave it to my mom because he didn't need it. And I know my grandmother would be like really happy to see that it went to someone who like needed it. And my grandmother loved my mom in the same way that like she loved everyone else, even though they're not like blood related. So I didn't have to buy my mom a car. And my grandmother's car went to my mom, which was great. I don't know about any of her other like assets though. I don't even know what's happening with all that stuff. But I told her like literally like a few weeks before she died that I wanted some of like the photo albums. Um there's also like this necklace that I know she wanted to give me. Um I don't know where it is and I don't know if it'll get to me, but she had everything like planned out. She had a will, she had like this like lockbox with letters in it, and she just had to the very last detail. She had like everything planned out. She knew the song she wanted played at her funeral. She knew everything, um which provides a lot of like ease of mind for like the family, because we just have to follow her rules. We don't have to figure out everything on our own. So I don't know. I hope I get those photo albums at some point. But yeah, grief is very, very strange, and it definitely like comes and goes. Like I can have like perfectly fine days, and then like at nighttime I'll like remember, oh yeah, like she died, and then I'll like break down like crying. But it's definitely not like this linear feeling throughout every day. I mean, maybe it is for other people, but not for me. It's not this like linear feeling of dread every single day. It just like comes and goes in waves. And people are right when it's like you don't ever heal from like people who are close to you passing away. It's just something that like you just have to like learn to live with. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I feel like I'm on like a pretty good track, and I'm just trying to be like as strong as I can for her and do exactly what she would want for me. And yeah. But I've taken a break from social media and everything since this happened. Which has helped like so much with my mental health and like my journey through all of this. And I have healed in a lot of ways because of that. I'm obviously not permanently gone, but I've definitely needed to take time to like process all of this. There's just absolutely no way I could have like kept vlogging and like filming videos as if like nothing happened. And I was spending all of my time with my family as well. But now I'm back in Japan. I have a new YouTube video that I'm putting up, like my vlog coming back to Japan and my first days here. And I'm honestly just really excited to go into the new year and like start fresh and have a good time, cuz I've been feeling like, I mean, aside from the loss of my grandmother, personally I've been feeling like very, very good, and my mental health has, for whatever reason, shot up and has done very well the past, I don't know, month. No, probably not month. But since I got to Japan, like I've just been feeling like really happy and really ready to like start back and get back on track with life. And yeah, I know this is like a really morbid, like sad podcast episode. So thanks for sticking through it if you did. Next week's is probably not going to be this morbid. But I wanted to address this before moving on. I felt like I kind of needed to. It is like, I feel like when you say, oh, I'm losing, like my grandmother passed away, it doesn't hold the same, what's it called, stigma as like losing a parent. But for me, it is the same as losing a parent. So it's like hard for me to talk about it and relay the feelings that I have towards it towards other people, because people might not be as close with their grandparents. But it's gut-wrenching. It's hard, and it's a huge deal to me, obviously. So it's really hard to like move on or do anything unrelated to that. without talking about it first. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I guess I'll just end that here. I feel like I'm saying so much. I'm trying to just like make sure I'm explaining myself well. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next podcast episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you did. Okay, there goes my ums. I'm just going to end it here. Bye, guys. Love you.